The Vakari ships appeared like sharp, jagged crystals against the blackness of space. Their surfaces glowed with an eerie blue light as they moved toward the small planet below. This was the 10th world they had visited in the past month. Like the others, it would soon be nothing but dust. Commander Alan Kelly stood in the observation room of Europa Station, watching the recording for the third time. His hands gripped the edge of the console so tightly his knuckles turned white. The Yao footage showed the fall of Nebulon 5, home to over 4 million colonists and the Alliance's most advanced research center. "Play it again," he ordered. The young officer beside him hesitated. "Sir, I don't think—" I said. "Play it again, Lieutenant." The screen flickered and reset. Once more, Alan watched as 7 massive crystal ships emerged from hyperspace above. Nebulon 5. They formed a perfect circle around the planet, and then, without warning or communication, they fired. Beams of intense energy struck the surface. Oceans boiled. Cities vanished. The planet's crust cracked open like an egg. In less than 10 minutes, a thriving world became a dead rock. Alan closed his eyes when it was over. 20 years, he said quietly. "They have been doing this for 20 years, and we still know almost nothing about them." "The Alliance Council is meeting tomorrow," the lieutenant said. "They're saying this might be it. The final evacuation." Alan nodded. After decades of fighting, the Alliance of Free Worlds had come to a grim conclusion. They couldn't win this war. The Vakari were too powerful, their technology too advanced. The best they could hope for was to save as many people as possible before the end came. He left the observation room and walked through the curved hallways of Europa Station. The base had been built into the icy moon orbiting Jupiter, hidden from casual scans. Once it had been a minor research outpost. Now it housed the last major command center of Earth's defense forces. In the main hall, screens showed news from across human space. Colonies were being evacuated. Refugee ships arrived. In the solar system daily, Earth itself was preparing for the worst, building vast underground shelters that might, just might, survive a Vakari attack. Alan entered his office and found Admiral Susan Rivera waiting for him. "I watched the footage," he said before she could speak. Susan's face was grim. "Then you know why I'm here." Alan sat heavily in his chair. "The Defiant." "Yes. The Council wants to know if it's ready." The USS Defiant, Earth's secret weapon. A ship unlike any other, built with technology reverse-engineered from a crashed Vakari scout found on Mars 30 years ago. Alan had been part of the project, from the beginning, overseeing the integration of alien tech with human systems. "It's not ready," he said flatly. "The reactor is unstable. The shields have never been tested in combat. Half the systems might fail the moment we power everything up." Susan leaned forward. "Alan, we're out of time. Our best estimates give us 3 weeks before the Vakari reach Earth. Maybe less. Then we evacuate. Send people to the outer colonies. Alpha Centauri might. They've already hit Alpha Centauri. Yesterday." Alan fell silent. Alpha Centauri had been, humanity's oldest and largest colony outside the solar system. "How many got out?" he asked finally. "Not enough." The silence stretched between them. Through the window, Alan could see Earth, a blue jewel against the darkness, home to 10 billion people. The cradle of humanity. "The Defiant isn't ready," he repeated. "But it's all we have." Susan nodded. "I've already chosen a captain, Samantha Wright." Alan knew the name. Wright had a reputation as a brilliant tactical officer. She'd commanded patrol ships along the outer rim for years, one of the few who had encountered Vakari scouts and survived. Does she know what she's getting into? No one does, but she's our best shot. The next day, Alan boarded a shuttle to Luna Base, where the Defiant was docked in a secret underground facility. As the small craft left Europa's icy surface, he watched Jupiter's swirling clouds below. He wondered if he would ever see this view again. The journey to Earth's moon took 18 hours. Alan spent most of it reviewing the Defiant's specifications one last time. The ship was not large, Only 450 meters long with a crew of 200, but it carried weapons and defenses unlike anything humans had built before. The phase disruptors were the primary weapon, devices that could theoretically disrupt the crystalline structure of Vicari ships. The quantum shields might withstand the enemy's energy beams at least for a while, and the experimental jump drive could move the ship vast distances in moments, allowing it to strike and retreat before the Vicari could respond. All of it was theoretical. None of it had been tested in actual combat. When the shuttle arrived at Luna Base, Alan was met by Chief Engineer Jack Williams, a burly man with calloused hands and tired eyes. "Figured you'd show up," Jack said. "Come to see her off?" They walked through a long tunnel carved into the lunar rock. At the end was a massive underground hangar, and there, suspended in magnetic clamps, was the USS Defiant. The ship looked strange, almost alien. Its hull was dark gray with blue lines running along its length like veins. These were conduits for the quantum shield system, designed to absorb and redirect energy. The ship's shape was unusual too. Not the typical cylindrical design of most human vessels, but something more angular, with sharp edges that somehow resembled the very Vicari ships it was built to fight. "She's as ready as she'll ever be," Jack said. "We've done all we can." Alan nodded. "And the crew?" "Arriving now. Captain Wright is already aboard." As if on cue, a woman emerged from the ship's main airlock. Captain Samantha Wright was tall and lean, her dark hair cut short in military style. She wore the blue uniform of Earth Space Command, with the 4 silver stars of a ship captain on her collar. She spotted Alan and approached with a crisp salute. "Commander Kelly, I was hoping to meet you before we launched." Alan returned the salute. "Captain, I understand you've been briefed on the mission." "Yes, sir. Find the Vicari fleet heading for Earth. Test our weapons against a single ship if possible. Gather intelligence and return. And if we can't return, make them remember us," Alan finished. Wright's eyes were steady. "Do you believe this ship can hurt them, sir?" Alan looked at the Defiant. 20 years of work. Earth's last hope. "I believe it has a chance," he said. "That's more than we had yesterday." Wright nodded. "Then that's enough." Over the next 6 hours, the final preparations were made. Crew members arrived in groups of 10, each selected for their specific skills and experience. Supply shuttles delivered last-minute provisions. Engineers ran final checks on all systems. Alan stood with Susan Rivera in the control room, watching the activity below. "The Council has approved the mission," Susan said. "They've also initiated the final protocol. Earth's population is being moved to the deep shelters. All ships capable of interstellar travel are being prepared for evacuation." "They're giving up," Alan said. "They're surviving. That's all we can do now." At 0600 hours, the Defiant was ready. The magnetic clamps released, and the ship hovered in the center of the hangar. The massive doors above slowly opened, revealing the star-filled sky. Alan watched from the control room as Captain Wright's voice came over the speakers. "This is Captain Wright to Luna Control. USS Defiant is ready for departure." Susan leaned toward the microphone. "You are cleared for launch, Defiant. Godspeed." The ship rose smoothly through the opening. Its engines glowed blue as it accelerated away from the moon. In moments, it was just a bright point of light, then nothing at all. Alan kept his eyes on the empty sky. 20 years, he said softly. 20 years they've ravaged our galaxy. Let's hope one ship is enough to stop them. Susan placed a hand on his shoulder. If not, at least we didn't go quietly. The Defiant was gone, carrying with it the hopes of Earth and all the Alliance worlds, against an enemy that had destroyed hundreds of planets, against ships that had never been defeated, one ship, 200 crew members. A desperate mission. The last fight had begun. Captain Samantha Wright stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant, watching the stars streak by on the main view screen. The ship had been traveling for 3 days since leaving Luna Base. 3 days of tests, adjustments, and nervous waiting. "Status. Report," she said. Lieutenant Dean Carter looked up from his console. All systems functioning within acceptable parameters, Captain. The jump drive is charged and ready. Samantha nodded. The jump drive was their most valuable asset, and their most dangerous. Based on Vakari technology, it could move the ship vast distances instantly, but each jump put enormous strain on the ship's experimental reactor. They could not use it carelessly. "And our destination?" she asked. "Proxima Centauri," replied Lieutenant Ryan Garcia from the navigation station. "Latest intelligence puts a Vakari scout group near the colony there." Proxima Centauri was, or had been, home to nearly 50,000 colonists. The evacuation had begun weeks ago, but Samantha knew many people remained on the surface. If the Vakari attacked there, those lives would be lost. She pressed a button on her chair. All senior staff to the bridge. Within minutes, the command crew had assembled. Chief Engineer Jack Williams arrived last, his uniform stained with coolant, fluid from the engine room. "The reactor is stable," he reported before Samantha could ask, "but I can't promise it'll stay that way if we push it." "We're going to have to push it," Samantha replied. She turned to the main screen and activated the tactical display. "This is our mission. We find the Vakari scouts at Proxima Centauri. Engage a single vessel if possible, test our weapons and gather data." Weapons Officer Nicole Reeves frowned. "And if we encounter more than scouts?" "Then we jump out immediately. We can't risk the ship against their main fleet." Dr. Frank Martinez, the ship's chief medical officer, stepped forward. "Captain, I've studied all the data we have on the Vakari. There's something I think the crew should know." Samantha nodded, for him to continue. "We've never recovered any biological material from Vakari ships. No bodies, no tissue samples. Nothing that suggests organic life as we understand it." Jack Williams crossed his arms. "You're saying they're not alive?" "I'm saying they might not be alive in the way we define it. The crystalline structure of their ships has properties that suggest it might be the Vakari." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Everyone had assumed they were fighting aliens inside alien ships. The idea that the ships themselves might be the enemy was disturbing. Samantha broke the silence. "Whether they're crystals or creatures, they've destroyed hundreds of worlds. Our job remains the same." She looked at Garcia. "Set course for Proxima Centauri. Prepare for jump." The crew returned to their stations. Samantha felt the tension in the air as the jump drive powered up. The stars on the view screen blurred, then stretched into lines of light. The ship shuddered. "Jump in 3, 2, 1. Garcia counted down. There was a moment of disorientation as space seemed to fold around them. Then, with a flash of blue light, the USS Defiant vanished from its position near Earth's solar system. The ship reappeared at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. Alarms immediately blared across the bridge. "Multiple contacts," Garcia shouted. 3 Vakari vessels detected." Samantha leaned forward. On screen, the view screen showed 3 crystal-like ships, smaller than the planet killers they had seen, in recordings but still much larger than the Defiant. They were moving toward Proxima's habitable planet. "Tactical analysis," Samantha ordered. Reeves studied her console. "They appear to be scout vessels, as expected. No signs they've detected us yet. Scan the planet. Are there still people down there?" Garcia worked his controls. "Yes, Captain, I'm reading approximately 8,000 life signs in the main colony. 8,000 people who wouldn't escape if the Vakari attacked. The evacuation wasn't complete." Samantha made a decision. "We're changing the mission. We can't sit back and watch another world die." She turned to Reeves. "Prepare the phase disruptors. Target the lead Vakari ship." "Captain," Jack Williams warned, "we don't know if our weapons will work." "We're about to find out." Samantha stood from her chair. "Battle stations. Shields to maximum." The bridge transformed as crew members moved with practiced efficiency. Red alert lights bathed everything in a crimson glow. "Move us into position," Samantha ordered. "Keep us at maximum weapons range. I want to hit them before they know we're here." The Defiant glided forward, its engines running silent. On the view screen, the crystal ships grew larger. They showed no sign of alarm, continuing their approach to the helpless planet. In range, Reeves reported. Samantha took a deep breath. This was it. Humanity's first real strike against the enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for 20 years. Fire. The phase disruptors hummed to life, sending pulses of energy toward the lead Vakari ship. The strange weapons didn't fire visible beams like traditional lasers. Instead, they emitted waves of energy designed to disrupt the unique crystalline structure of Vakari vessels. For a terrible moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then slowly cracks appeared along the surface of the target ship. The cracks spread, growing wider by the second. The Vakari vessel shuddered, its blue glow flickering. "It's working," Williams whispered. The damaged Vakari ship began to turn, moving away from its companions. It was trying to retreat. "They're running," Garcia said, disbelief in his voice. Samantha allowed herself a small smile. "Not this time. Target its propulsion and fire again." The phase disruptors fired a second volley. This time the effect was even more dramatic. The cracks in the crystal ship widened further, and pieces began to break off. Its glow faded entirely. "The other Vakari vessels are turning toward us," Garcia warned. "They're charging weapons." "Evasive maneuvers," Samantha ordered. "Prepare to jump if..." Before she could finish, the two remaining Vakari ships fired. Beams of intense energy shot across space toward the Defiant. The quantum shields flared as they absorbed the attack, but the ship shook violently. "Shields at 70%, Carter called out. "They're holding." This was another first. A human vessel that had withstood a direct Vakari attack. "Return fire," Samantha commanded. "Target the ship on the left." The Defiant's disruptors fired again, striking the second Vakari vessel. But this time the enemy was ready. The crystal ship's surface seemed to change, becoming more flexible, absorbing the energy rather than cracking under it. "They're adapting," Williams said urgently. "The disruptors aren't having the same effect." The Vakari fired again. This time their beams pulsed with a different energy signature. When they struck the Defiant's shields, they penetrated with frightening ease. The ship lurched as explosions rocked its hull. "Shields failing," Carter shouted over the noise of damaged systems. "Hull breach on deck 4. Samantha gripped her chair as the ship shook around her. "Seal off damaged sections. Prepare for emergency. Jump." The Vakari were still firing, their beams cutting through the Defiant's weakened defenses. Emergency lights flashed as more systems failed. "Jump drive charging," Garcia reported. 30 seconds to ready." "We don't have 30 seconds," Williams shouted as another explosion rocked the ship. Samantha made another quick decision. "All power to the rear shields. Take it from life support if you have to." The Defiant turned away from the Vakari ships, its damaged hull exposing itself to the enemy. But its rear shields strengthened just enough to absorb the next barrage. "Jump. Drive ready," Garcia called. "Get us out of here," Samantha ordered. Once again, space folded around the Defiant. With a flash of blue light, the ship vanished, leaving behind the wreckage of one Vakari vessel and two others that, for the first time in history, had failed to destroy their target. The Defiant reappeared in empty space, far from any star system. Emergency systems blared as the crew assessed the damage. "Status report," Samantha demanded, wiping blood from a cut on her forehead. "Multiple hull breaches," Carter replied. "We've lost 23 crew members. Life support is functioning, on emergency power only." "The reactor?" Williams checked his readings. "Stable, but running at reduced capacity. We won't be able to jump again for at least 12 hours. Samantha nodded grimly. She activated the ship-wide communication system. "This is the captain speaking. We have just engaged the enemy and survived. Not only survived, we destroyed one of their ships. For the first time, humanity has struck back against the Vakari. We've taken damage, we've lost good people, but we've proven that they can be hurt. Rest, repair, and prepare. This was only our first battle." As she ended the transmission, Samantha looked at the view screen, now showing only distant stars. They had made history today. But they had also learned something troubling. The Vakari could adapt, could change their crystalline structure to resist attack. This war was far from over. But for the first time in 20 years, there was hope. The USS Defiant drifted through empty space, its damaged hull visible in the pale emergency lights. Inside, crew members worked tirelessly to repair what they could. The medical bay was full. Dr. Frank Martinez moved from bed to bed, treating the injured with limited supplies. Captain Samantha Wright stood in what remained of the engine room. Chief Engineer Jack Williams was covered in grease as he worked on the reactor core. "How bad is it?" she asked. Jack wiped his forehead, leaving a dark smear. "Could be worse. The reactor is stable but running at 60% capacity. We've sealed most of the hull breaches. Life support is back to normal levels." "And the jump drive?" Jack's face grew more serious. "That's the problem. The control circuits were damaged. In the attack, I can fix it, but I need parts we don't have." Samantha crossed her arms. "What are our options?" "There's a mining outpost at Tau Ceti. Small place, but they might have what we need. It's about 3 days away at our current speed." Samantha nodded. "Set course for Tau Ceti, and Jack. Good work keeping us in one piece." She left the engine room and made her way through the damaged corridors. Crew members saluted as she passed. She saw something new in their eyes now. Hope. They had hit the enemy and survived. No one else had done that before. On the bridge, Lieutenant Garcia was at his post. His uniform was torn and a bandage covered one side of his face. "Captain on the bridge," he announced as she entered. "Status. Report," Samantha said. Lieutenant Nicole Reeves looked up from the weapons console. "Phase disruptors are functional but at reduced power. Quantum shields are operating at 40% capacity. We couldn't withstand another direct attack. Hopefully we won't have to. Set course for Tau Ceti, best possible speed." As the ship changed direction, Samantha called a meeting of her senior staff in what remained of the conference room. The space was damaged, with panels hanging from the ceiling and exposed wiring along one wall. When everyone was seated, she activated a holographic display showing their battle with the Vicari. "We've learned some important things," she began. "First, our weapons work. The phase disruptors can damage Vicari ships." There were nods around the table. This alone was a major breakthrough. "Second," she continued, "they can adapt. The second and third ships were less affected by our weapons than the first." Dr. Martinez leaned forward. "That supports my theory, that the ships themselves are living organisms, or at least some form of conscious entity. They can learn and evolve in real time." "Which means our advantage won't last?" Jack said grimly. "Exactly. We need to find a way to overcome their adaptation." Samantha turned to Reeves. "I want you to analyze every bit of data we have on that battle. Find a weakness we can exploit." Reeves nodded. "Yes, Captain." "What about Earth?" "Lieutenant?" Dean Carter asked. "Shouldn't we return to warn them about what we've learned?" Samantha shook her head. "We're too damaged for a jump that far, and our long-range communications were destroyed in the battle. For now, we're on our own." The meeting continued as they discussed repair priorities and duty rotations. When it was over, Samantha remained behind, studying the holographic images of the Vicari ships. There was something about their movement patterns that bothered her, something she couldn't quite identify. 3 days later, the Defiant limped into the Tau Ceti system. The mining outpost was located on a small moon orbiting the 5th planet. It was a rough place populated by miners and traders who preferred to stay away from the more developed worlds. "Open a channel," Samantha ordered as they approached. Garcia worked his console. "Channel open. This is Captain Samantha Wright of the Earth vessel Defiant. We request permission to dock for repairs and supplies." There was a long pause before a gruff voice responded. "Earth vessel? Haven't seen one of those in months. Thought you lot were evacuating back to your home system. We're on a special mission. We need parts and supplies." Another pause. "All right, you're cleared to dock at Bay 3, but I should warn you, we don't have much left. Most of it was taken by the last refugee ships." The Defiant docked at the small station. Jack Williams led a team to search for the parts they needed. Samantha went with them, accompanied by 2 security officers. The station was dimly lit and crowded with people from various Alliance worlds. Many looked like refugees, their possessions piled around them as they waited for transport ships that might never come. In the station's main market area, Jack haggled with a parts dealer while Samantha observed the crowd. She noticed a group of aliens watching them from across the room. They were Lorians, a species known for their trading networks and their connections to the black market. "We're being watched," she said quietly to one of her security officers. The officer nodded. "Those Lorians have been following us since we arrived." Jack finished his business with the dealer. "I got most of what we need, but he doesn't have the circuit modules for the jump drive." Samantha considered their options. Without those modules, they couldn't make another jump. They would be limited to conventional propulsion, far too slow to be effective against the Vakari. She made a decision. "Let's talk to our Lorian friends." They approached the group of aliens. The Lorians were tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large eyes. Their leader stepped forward. "Captain Wright," he said in a raspy voice. "Word travels fast. You are the ones who fought the Crystal Death and survived." Samantha was surprised. They knew about the battle. "News travels quickly. When it is this important, yes." The Lorian gestured to a private booth. "Please join us, I am Krell." In the booth, Krell spoke in hushed tones. "For 20 years, no one has harmed the Crystal Death. Until now. This makes you valuable. We need parts to repair our ship," Samantha said. "Specifically, circuit modules for a specialized drive system." Krell's large eyes blinked slowly. "I might have access to such items. But why should I help you?" "Because if we can hurt the Vakari once, we can do it again. Maybe even stop them." The Lorian was silent for a moment. "Many have claimed they could stop the Crystal Death. All have failed. We're different. We have technology based on their own designs." This caught Krell's interest. "Interesting. Very interesting." He seemed to make a decision. "I will help you, Captain. Not for payment, but for hope. If you can truly fight these monsters, that is worth more than money." Krell left briefly and returned with a small case. Inside were the exact circuit modules they needed. "How did you get these?" Jack asked, examining them. "Best not to ask," Krell replied. "But know they are genuine, military grade." As they prepared to leave, Krell stopped Samantha. "Captain, there is something else you should know. The Crystal Death is not acting normally. They have changed their pattern." "What do you mean?" "For 20 years they destroy worlds and move on. Now they are searching. We hear rumors that a major fleet has changed course. They are hunting for something." Samantha felt a chill. "Or someone." "Yes. I believe they are looking for you, Captain. For your ship. You hurt them and now they want revenge." Back on the Defiant, Jack and his team immediately began installing the new parts. Samantha called another meeting of her senior staff to share what she had learned. "If the Lorian is right, the Vakari are hunting us specifically," she said. "This changes things. It confirms they can communicate with each other across vast distances," Dr. Martinez noted. "A collective consciousness. It also means we've really pissed them off," Reeves added, "which could be good or bad, depending on how you look at it." Samantha nodded. "If we've got their attention, maybe we can use that. Draw them away from populated areas. Or lead them into a trap," Garcia suggested. "First, we need to finish our repairs and get the jump drive back online." Samantha looked at each of her officers. "They're hunting us now, but soon we'll be hunting them." As the meeting ended, an alarm sounded across the ship. Carter checked his console, his face paling. "Captain, we're detecting multiple ships entering the system. Crystal structure, Vakari signatures." Samantha rushed to the bridge. On the main screen, she saw 5 Vakari ships emerging from jump points near the outer planets. "How did they find us so quickly?" she demanded. "Unknown, Captain, but they're on an intercept course." The station sent an urgent message. "Earth vessel, multiple hostile ships detected. What have you brought to our doorstep?" Samantha made a quick decision. Prepare for immediate departure. We need to draw them away from the station. Jack's voice came over the comm system. Captain, the jump drive isn't ready. We need at least 2 more hours. We don't have 2 hours. We'll have to use conventional engines. She turned to her helm. Officer. Full power. Take us away from the station toward the outer system. The Defiant detached from the docking bay and accelerated away from the mining outpost. The Vakari ships changed course, following them. They're ignoring the station, Garcia noted. You were right, they're after us specifically. Samantha watched the enemy ships on the tactical display. Now we see how badly they want us. Push the engines to maximum. Let's see if we can stay ahead of them until the jump drive is ready. The UAE chase had begun. The damaged human ship against 5 crystal killers. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, more were coming. The Defiant raced through the Tau City system, pushing its damaged engines to their limits. Behind them, 5 Vakari ships followed in perfect formation. They moved with eerie precision, like a single organism with 5 bodies. On the bridge, Captain Samantha Wright studied the tactical display. The Vakari were gaining, but slowly. Time until they're in weapons range? She asked. Lieutenant Ryan Garcia checked his console. 43 minutes at current speeds. And the jump drive? Chief Williams reports 90 minutes until it's operational. Samantha frowned. The math was simple and deadly. They wouldn't outrun the Vakari long enough for the jump drive to be repaired. Options? She asked her bridge crew. Lieutenant Nicole Reeves spoke up from the weapons station. Captain, I've been analyzing the data from our first encounter. The Vakari adapted to our phase disruptors, but not instantly. There was a delay of about 20 seconds before they changed their crystalline structure. So we have a brief window where our weapons are effective, Samantha said, seeing where this was going. Yes, and I've been working on modifying our disruptors to fire with randomly changing frequencies. It might slow their adaptation. Samantha nodded. Do it. What else? Lieutenant Dean Carter looked up from his station. The gas giant at the edge of the system has several moons. The radiation and magnetic fields might interfere with their sensors. We could use it for cover. Good thinking. Set course for the gas giant, maximum speed. The Defiant changed direction, heading toward the massive planet at the edge of the Tau Ceti system. The Vakari ships adjusted their course to match. In the engine room, Jack Williams and his team worked frantically to repair the jump drive. Circuit. Panels were open, wires exposed. The new parts from the station were being integrated into the damaged systems. Pass me that molecular bonder, Jack said to his assistant. Sweat dripped from his forehead as he carefully fused the new circuits into place. The ship shuddered around them as the engines strained. Jack's comm unit beeped. Williams, this is the captain. We need that jump drive operational in 40 minutes, not 90. Captain, I'm good, but I'm not magical, Jack protested. Find a way, Jack. Our lives depend on it. Jack sighed and looked at his team. You heard? The captain. Let's do the impossible. In the medical bay, Dr. Frank Martinez treated a young engineer for burns sustained during repairs. The ship's constant acceleration made every movement difficult. Hold still, he told the engineer as he applied regenerative gel to the burns. This will help the skin regrow. The ship lurched suddenly, throwing both of them against the wall. Alarms blared. What was that? The engineer asked, wincing in pain. Martinez helped him back onto the bed. I don't know, but I'm guessing our friends caught up with us sooner than expected. On the bridge, Samantha gripped her chair as the ship shook again. Report, she called out. They're firing long-range energy pulses, Garcia replied. Not direct. Hits, but they're getting closer. Time to the gas giant? 18 minutes. Samantha made a quick decision. We can't wait. Lieutenant Reeves, are the modified disruptors ready? Yes, Captain, but they're only at 70% power. It'll have to do. Bring us about. Target the lead Vakari ship. The crew stared at her in surprise. Captain? Carter questioned. They're expecting us to run. Let's surprise them instead. Samantha stood from her chair. Battle stations. All hands prepare for combat. The wounded Defiant turned to face its pursuers. The 5 crystal ships continued. Forward. seemingly unconcerned by their prey's sudden change in tactics. "They're not slowing down," Garcia noted. "They don't see us as a threat." "Good," Samantha said. "That's their first mistake. Hold fire until my command." The distance between the ships closed rapidly. On the main screen, the Vakari vessels grew larger. Their surfaces glowed blue with building energy. "They're charging weapons," Reeves warned. "Hold," Samantha said. "Hold." The Vakari ships were now close enough that individual facets could be seen in their crystalline structures. Still, Samantha waited. "Captain?" Carter's voice was tense. "Now. Fire all disruptors." The modified phase disruptors fired, sending pulses of energy that shifted frequencies in random patterns. The beams struck the lead Vakari ship directly at its center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then cracks began to form along the crystal surface. The cracks spread quickly, more rapidly than in their previous encounter. "Direct hit," Reeves called out. "Their structure is failing." The lead Vakari ship began to break apart. Light poured from the widening cracks as its energy core destabilized. "The other ships are firing," Garcia warned. "Evasive maneuvers," Samantha ordered. The Defiant banked hard to port, but not quickly enough. Energy beams from the remaining Vakari ships sliced through space, striking the human vessel's starboard side. The ship shuddered violently. "Shields failing on decks 6 through 10, Carter reported. "Hull breach in the cargo bay. Return fire. Target the nearest ship." The Defiant's disruptors fired again, striking a second Vakari vessel. This time, the effect was less dramatic. The crystal ship's surface rippled, absorbing some of the energy. "They're adapting," Reeves said. "Changing the frequency isn't enough anymore." Another volley from the Vakari struck the Defiant. Systems failed across the ship as power fluctuated. "Engines are down to 40%, Carter reported. Samantha hit her comm unit. "Bridge to engineering. Jack, we need that jump drive now." Jack's voice came back, punctuated by the sound of explosions. "Almost there, Captain. 2 more minutes." "We don't have 2 minutes." As if to emphasize her point, another Vakari beam struck the ship. The lights on the bridge flickered and died, replaced by the red glow of emergency lighting. "Weapons offline," Reeves called out. "Shields failing completely." Samantha looked at the tactical display. The lead Vakari ship had been destroyed, but the other 4 were surrounding them, moving into position for a killing blow. "All power to the jump drive," she ordered. "Take it from life support if you have to." "Captain, that will leave us with only 15 minutes of air," Carter protested. "Better than being vaporized in 15 seconds. The ship groaned around them as power was diverted from critical systems. The temperature on the bridge immediately began to drop as life support powered down. "Vakari ships charging weapons," Garcia reported, his breath now visible in the cold air. Samantha opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands, brace for impact and prepare for emergency jump. If we survive this, it's going to be rough." On the screen, all 4 remaining Vakari ships fired simultaneously, their energy beams converging on the Defiant. At that exact moment, Jack's voice shouted over the comm, "Jump drive active!" "Jump now," Samantha ordered. Space bent around the Defiant as the jump drive engaged. The Vakari energy beams reached the ship at the same instant it began to phase out of normal space. There was a blinding flash as the weapons struck the partially phased ship. For the crew, everything went white. A terrible noise filled the ship. Metal tearing, systems overloading, the jump drive screaming as it tried to complete its function, while the ship was partially destroyed around it. Then sudden silence. Darkness. When Samantha opened her eyes, she was lying on the floor of the bridge. Emergency lights cast weak red shadows across the room. Smoke filled the air. She pulled herself up, checking for injuries. Her arm was burned, and a cut on her head was bleeding freely. "Status report," she called out, her voice hoarse. Around her, the bridge crew slowly recovered. Some didn't move at all. We jumped," Garcia said weakly from his damaged console. "But I don't know where we are." The main screen was cracked but still functional. It showed unfamiliar stars against the blackness of space. No sign of the Vakari ship's life support, Samantha asked. Carter checked his systems. Minimal. We have air and basic gravity, but that's about it. Engineering report, Samantha called over the comm. There was no response. Engineering, respond. Finally, Jack's voice came through, distorted and faint. We're here, Captain. Barely. The jump drive is completely fried. The reactor is stable, but at minimal output. Samantha took a deep breath. Casualties? Dr. Martinez's voice answered. 37 injured, 12 dead, and that's just my initial count. Samantha closed her eyes briefly, feeling the weight of those losses. Then she straightened her uniform and addressed her crew. We survived. We destroyed one of their ships and escaped the rest. Now we need to figure out where we are and make repairs. She looked around the damaged bridge. This isn't over, not by a long shot. As the crew began to assess the damage and treat the wounded, Samantha moved to a working console and studied their position. The ship had jumped much farther than planned. They were deep in uncharted space. But they were alive. And as long as they were alive, they could fight. The Vicari had hunted them. Now it was time to turn the tables. 3 weeks passed as the USS Defiant drifted through unknown space. The crew worked day and night to repair the ship. The damage was severe, but slowly, systems came back online. The reactor provided enough power for basic life support and limited propulsion. But the jump drive remained dead, its complex systems too damaged to repair with the resources they had. Captain Samantha Wright stood in the observation room, looking out at unfamiliar stars. Dr. Frank Martinez entered quietly and stood beside her. How's your arm? He asked, gesturing to her bandaged burn. Healing, she replied. How are our people? Most of the injured will recover. We lost 2 more yesterday. Samantha closed her eyes briefly. 14 crew members lost. 14 lives, under her command. I've been analyzing the data from our encounters with the Vicari, Martinez said, changing the subject. I've found something interesting. He handed her a data pad showing complex energy patterns. The Vicari ships communicate with each other through some form of quantum signals. That's how they adapt so quickly and coordinate their attacks. Can we use that against them? Martinez nodded. I think so. If we could disrupt their communication, they might not be able to adapt to our weapons. For the first time in weeks, Samantha felt a glimmer of hope. Work with Lieutenant Reeves. See if you can develop a way to interfere with their signals. Later that day, Chief Engineer Jack Williams called the captain to the engine room. His face was smeared with grease, but he was smiling. Good news? Samantha asked. Maybe. We can't fix the jump drive, but I think we can convert its remaining components into something useful. He pointed to a complex assembly of parts spread across a workbench. A quantum pulse generator. It won't let us jump, but it could create a massive energy wave that might disrupt the Vicari crystalline structure. Like our phase disruptors, but much more powerful. Exactly. One big punch instead of many small ones. How close would we need to get? Jack's smile faded. Very close. Point-blank range. Samantha understood what that meant. A suicide run. Not necessarily. If we modify the shields to focus all their power forward, we might survive the blast. Might, Samantha nodded slowly. Keep working on it. I want options. On the bridge, Lieutenant Garcia called the captain over to his console. Captain, I've finally determined our position. We're in the Sagittarius Arm, about 10,000 light-years from Earth. That's impossible, Samantha said. The jump drive couldn't take us that far. I know, but the star patterns confirm it, and there's something else. He adjusted his display to show a distant solar system. I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from this system. They match Vicari patterns. Samantha studied the readings. A base? A fleet? Something big. Much bigger than anything we've encountered before. Lieutenant Carter joined them. Could it be their homeworld? The possibility hung in the air. If this was indeed where the Vicari came from, it would be the greatest discovery since their appearance 20 years ago. Set course for that system, Samantha ordered. Best possible speed. Captain, Carter warned. "Without the jump drive, it will take us 2 weeks to reach it, even at full power." "Then we better get started." As the Defiant moved slowly toward the mysterious system, the crew prepared for what might be their final mission. They had no way to contact Earth or the Alliance, no way to call for help. They were alone, heading toward the heart of the enemy that had ravaged the galaxy for 2 decades. Martinez and Reeves worked together to develop a way to disrupt the Vicari quantum communications. Jack and his team converted the jump drive into a massive weapon. The rest of the crew repaired what they could and trained for combat. 12 days later, the Defiant approached the edge of the target system. Samantha called the senior staff to the bridge. "We need to be clear about our mission," she said to the gathered officers. "We're going to gather intelligence on this Vicari installation. If possible, we'll test our new weapons and disruption systems. Then we'll withdraw and find a way back to Alliance space." "And if withdrawal isn't possible?" Reeves asked. Samantha met her gaze steadily. "Then we make sure our deaths count for something." As the Defiant entered the system, its sensors detected something massive orbiting the third planet. The main screen showed an enormous crystalline structure, like a Vicari ship, but hundreds of times larger. "Is that their homeworld?" Carter asked in awe. "No," Martinez said, studying the readings. "It's artificial, a station or base of some kind. I'm detecting thousands of smaller structures around it," Garcia reported. "Some are ship-sized, others smaller." "A shipyard," Jack suggested. "They're building more ships." Samantha made a decision. "We need a closer look. Take us in, but slowly. Passive sensors only." The Defiant moved carefully through the outer system, using the gravity of gas giants to mask its approach. As they got closer, the true scale of the Vicari installation became clear. It was indeed a shipyard, producing the crystal vessels that had destroyed so many worlds. "This is their production facility," Samantha realized. "This is where they're born." Martinez nodded. "If we could destroy this, we might cripple their entire operation." "How?" Carter asked. "There must be hundreds of ships protecting it." Samantha turned to Jack. "Your quantum pulse. Could it affect the entire installation?" Jack considered this. "If we could get close enough to the main structure, maybe. The blast would cascade through their quantum-linked systems." "And how close is close enough?" "We'd need to be right on top of it. Essentially, we'd have to ram the station before firing." The bridge fell silent as everyone understood the implications. "A one-way trip," Samantha said quietly. No one spoke, for several moments. Then Reeves broke the silence. "We've lost our homes, our families, entire worlds. If we can stop that from happening to others." She left the thought unfinished. Samantha looked at each of her officers. She saw fear in their eyes, but also determination. "I won't order anyone to do this," she said. "Each of you has a choice." One by one, they nodded. No one left the bridge. "Then let's make a plan." For 2 days, they studied the Vicari installation from a distance, identifying patrol patterns and weaknesses. Jack completed the quantum pulse generator, connecting it to the ship's reactor. Martinez and Reeves finalized their communication disruptor. When everything was ready, Samantha addressed the entire crew over the ship's comm system. "What we do today will change the course of this war. We may not live to see it, but the Vicari will remember the day a human ship entered their space. They will remember the Defiant." The ship accelerated toward the massive installation. Almost immediately, Vicari patrol ships detected them and moved to intercept. "Activate the disruption field," Samantha ordered. Martinez engaged the new system. A wave of energy spread from the Defiant, interfering with the quantum signals between the Vicari ships. The crystal vessels slowed, their movements becoming erratic and uncoordinated. "It's working," Martinez exclaimed. "They can't communicate with each other." The Defiant raced past the confused patrols, heading directly for the main installation. More Vicari ships converged on them, firing wildly. Some of their shots hit, damaging the already wounded ship further, but the Defiant pressed on. "Divert all power to forward shields and engines," Samantha commanded. We only need to hold together for a few more minutes. The massive crystalline structure grew larger on the view screen. Its surface glowed with energy as defense systems activated. Beams of intense light shot toward the Defiant, some finding their mark. Systems failed across the ship. Fires broke out on multiple decks. 8,000 meters, Garcia replied. 7,000. 6. Arm the quantum pulse generator, Samantha ordered. Jack's voice came over the comm. Armed and ready, Captain. 5,000 meters, Garcia continued. 4,000. Everyone hold on, Samantha called out. This is going to be close. The Defiant streaked toward the heart of the Vakari installation, trailing debris and venting atmosphere. On the view screen, the crystalline structure filled their view, its surface a maze of glowing blue patterns. 3,000 meters. 2,000. 1,000 meters. Fire the pulse. Jack activated the quantum pulse generator. The ship's reactor poured all its energy into the converted jump drive. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then a wave of energy exploded outward from the Defiant, striking the Vakari installation at its core. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Fractures spread across the crystalline surface, widening rapidly as energy cascaded through the structure. The Vakari ships nearby began to break apart as the pulse affected them through their quantum links. The Defiant, caught in its own weapon's effect, began to tear itself apart. The bridge shook so violently that crew members were thrown from their stations. Screens exploded and support beams collapsed. Through the chaos, Samantha caught a glimpse of the view screen. The Vakari installation was coming apart, massive chunks breaking away as internal explosions rippled through it. She allowed herself a small smile. We did it, she whispered. Light filled the bridge as the reactor containment failed. In her final moments, Captain Samantha Wright thought of Earth, of home, and knew that humanity now had a chance. 6 months later, a battered Alliance patrol ship detected an unusual debris field in a distant system. Among the fragments of crystalline material, they found pieces of human technol,